to the Senate Standing Committee on Judiciary meeting number 15, and surely to goodness our last. Yeah, right. Right. It is early on day 60, folks. You got to keep the options open. I believe we have a quorum with members here moving from the gallery up to their seats. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Berg.
Present remotely.
Senator Kerr. Senator Neal. Senator Schickel. Senator Schroeder. President Stivers.
I'm here.
Senator Turner. Senator West. Senator Wheeler.
Here.
Senator Carroll. Chairman Westerfield.
Here. I believe we've got a quorum. Is that right, Austin? All right. Before we get started, I want to have Representative Bentley come on back up for House Bill 92, which is a bill we've seen before. But I want to take a special moment to recognize and celebrate our outgoing member, Senator Will Schroeder, for his last meeting here before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Will, you're a friend. You are a brilliant legal mind. You have contributed mightily to this committee. You have served as its vice chair before. And if you had outlasted me, I assumed at one point you might even be the chair if you wanted it. And I'm going to miss having you around. But we're glad that you were a part of our committee for your 8-year term here in the state Senate. And you deserve a round of applause. Would you care to say anything? Put you on the spot there.
Appreciate you guys.
All right. Thanks so much. Okay. Representative, you have the floor. And members, we have both a committee substitute before you, and we also have a committee amendment. Sure. I'll entertain a motion on the sub from Senator Schickel. Is there a second? From Senator Stivers, President Stivers. We'll adopt it here in a second. I'm going to let them explain the bill and the sub. And I'm just going to tell you now, I will not entertain a motion to roll the amendment into the sub. They will be treated separately and kept separately. Representative, you have the floor, sir.
My name is Dan Bentley, District 98, the great representative of the great Commonwealth of Kentucky. To my left is Blake Christopher, he's the Deputy General Counsel and Director of Legal Policy. And to my right is Vic Maddox, Associate Attorney General. Today we're discussing House Bill 92. And as you all know, in 2021, we passed a bill with no nay votes on establishing the Opioid Abatement Trust Fund. Today, we have a bill that basically was brought up to guarantee that we, in the Ohio settlement of the Opioid Abatement Trust Fund, that we didn't miss the companies that were going bankrupt. And so that's what we're doing here today. So if you have any questions, we've been here, 2 weeks ago? And so if you have any questions or you haven't seen it before, I can explain it further.
Any questions? We got a motion to second on the sub. Happy to ask for all those in favor of adopting the sub. Please vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, the sub is adopted. Now, President Stivers, do you have a question or a...
Just a comment so people understand what the sub is. Are you going to explain it, Mr. Chair? Or
It's not my sub. I believe it is Senator Wheeler's sub or someone else's sub. But
I'll
it's before the
explain it,
committee. Knock yourself out.
All right. First of all, if I can, Mr. Chair,
You may.
Representative Bentley and to the representative from the Attorney General's office, this has been worked on for what now? The legislative portion for over a year and a half, and appreciate Representative Bentley, very much honorable in what you're doing. And as we had this discussion out in the hall, some of the things that happened in the last few days is how you get the relationship of sausage and making of legislation. There are various parties that have interest in this, particularly the state, the cities and counties, the individuals who are involved in representing those entities, the governmental entities. With this, the sub deals with what was, and I'm going to look at Victor Maddox and make sure he can nod his head if I'm right. The sub deals with metrics for division of the opioid settlement on the local level, not with us. Over the next 60 days, I think 90 days, maybe by July 31st, there is going to be a contribution that will be in the mid $80 million range. Half of it will go to the state. Half of it will be distributed back to the entities that filed suit. This will set up the sub will set up the metrics for which that half that would be distributed to locals, much like we've done tobacco settlement style sheets, will be distributed back to the cities and counties on the respective percentages. That's what the sub does. That will go forward, I think, for the next 18 years as the money continues to come from the respective entities that have been participatory as defendants in federal litigation that has been based out of the Cleveland District Federal Court. So that's what these metrics are, to make sure that everyone can basically forecast what they will get. And if there are additional settlements by inclusion of additional defendants, it will also go through this metrics for division. And so that's what the committee substitute does. It is my understanding from this perspective, not dealing with the floor or the amendment that Senator Wheeler is going to do, that everyone is in agreement with this because this was actually done and the metrics were established through the federal litigation in the federal district court in Cleveland. I believe that's what the committee substitute does.
Anybody have any questions on the sub that has now been adopted? Okay. Now, Senator Wheeler, you've got an amendment before us that is written to the sub, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Correct, Mr. Chairman. What the amendment does, it's the result of intensive negotiations between the Kentucky League of Cities, KCO, as well as some of the representatives, the attorneys that represented the counties against the opioid manufacturers regarding the division of the attorney's fees. And I want to appreciate Representative Bentley for being cooperative on this. I mean, obviously, he wrote a great piece of legislation, and what we want to make sure of to get the maximum amount of these settlement dollars back into local communities is effectuated. But what this does, it confirms that the maximum attorney fees for the attorneys that represented the aggrieved parties is capped at 15%, which was the amount agreed upon or recommended in the by the federal multi-district litigation and approved by the judge out of Cleveland. In addition, it creates a state backstop fund, which what is important about this is there are essentially two pots of money from which the attorneys can draw off their fees. There's both a national fund that can pay up to 6%, I believe, of the attorney's fees, as well as this separate fund would enable the cities and counties who had representative parties to pay a lower portion of the settlement funds and those fees, so that all the parties receiving money contribute towards the employment of those attorneys, and it also ensures that the aggregate fees received by the attorneys for those represented and who are involved in this settlement do not exceed an aggregate of 15%. So KCO is in agreement with this. The Kentucky League of Cities is in agreement with this. The Kentucky Justice Association, which contains is the group organization representing many of the attorneys who were involved in this legislation, are in agreement with this. And as we have stated, this was a result of intensive negotiations between the House and Senate councils. So I think we've managed to get a lot of disparate parties with disparate views together, and I think this committee amendment makes sure that the attorney fees are both reasonable and fair to all parties receiving money in this settlement.
Senator Schickel and then President Stivers.
Wasn't expecting that. I have a question. I've received some and I think you've answered it for me, but I just want to make sure, because I've received some correspondence late last night and even this morning from my local governments that they support your amendment.
They do, Senator Schickel. If we did not have this fund, then it's very likely that the entire responsibility for the attorney fees would fall back on the counties and the cities that retained counsel. What this does, it spreads the attorney fee responsibility between the national fund and all cities and counties who are receiving money under the opioid.
Thank you.
President Stivers.
That partially was where I was going, Mr. Chairman, but I see representatives from CAECO, League of Cities,
Right.
and the Justice Association. I would like for them to put this out on the record that they are in agreement with this, so there is no misunderstandings, and that everyone who sits on this, because this was done late last night, and that's why I drew the analogy with sausage. So, so everybody has a comfort level. I would ask that
If
we
you're willing
inquire
to,
them.
please step. If your organization supports it, come up, say your name and your organization and what your position is or ain't. Okay.
I want this on the record.
Not asking for a grand floor speech, just we like it or we don't. Go ahead.
Attorney representing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Is your mic green lit?
Now it is. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you, Senator. My name is Ron Johnson. I'm an attorney. I represent 21 counties and 5 cities in Kentucky in the opioid litigation. I'm also here as a representative of the Kentucky Justice Association, and we do fully support this amendment to the bill.
Thank you.
Shelley Hampton, Director of Government Affairs, Kentucky Association of Counties. We fully support.
Thank you.
J.D. Cheney, Kentucky League of Cities. We are in support of the amendment.
Easy peasy. Anybody else in the group or the crowd or the gallery that feels like they oughta, based on the president's request and the chairs, and not yet stepped up? All right. You had your chance. Senator Turner has some questions of our OAG folks.
I just want to know their position.
Come on back up, gentlemen. Vic or Blake.
Let the president ask that first.
President Stivers.
Having been involved in this, I'm not sure that the Attorney General, and I'm going to try to jump through this,
They can say that if that's,
that they may not be able to say much because
That's
of
fine.
potential conflict.
then their answer should reflect that.
I'm sorry, what was the question, Mr. President?
Senator Turner asked what the
Senator-
OAG's position was.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Turner. There's no objection about it. The Office of the Attorney General doesn't take a position on the legislation. There was a provision in an earlier draft that would have set up the office as effectively the dispersing agent or the trustee for the funds that would go into the local government fee fund, and we did object to that. And I understand that has
That
been
is
removed.
no longer in the language.
And so with that change and the current amendment, the office believes it's a legislative matter, and we don't take a position one way or the other.
I think it was good for you to say that out loud, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's
Yeah. Thank you.
need to have on the record.
Any other questions for members? We do need a motion on the amendment. A motion from Senator Schickel, a second from Senator Wheeler. Thank you for sponsoring or for making the second to your own amendment. All those in favor of adopting the amendment, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The amendment is adopted. And thank you. Motion on the bill as amended by the substitute and the amendment having been made by Senator Schickel, second by Senator Wheeler. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Senator Carroll. Senator Kerr. Senator Neal. Senator Schickel. Senator Schroeder. President Stivers. Senator Turner. Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Chairman Westerfield.
I vote aye. Bill passes with favorable expression on a 6-0 vote for those watching at home, and it shall be reported favorably to the floor for action at that time. We do have a title amendment. Motion from Senator Wheeler, second from the chair. All those in favor of adopting the title amendment, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Title is thus amended. Seeing no further business before the legislative business anyway, I do want to take one final moment before we break up here on day 60 and ask for you to give a great big round of applause for this fantastic Judiciary Committee staff, which is here in the room. all of you members certainly know. A lot of you in the gallery are here, and our regular folks that attend our meetings know how much of a workhorse this committee can be for the staff, the work that they've got to do to accomplish what this committee does, including work until whatever hour it was last night that you were still emailing with me and with Senator Wheeler. And that's just on this one bill. And it's Austin and Matt know that the Senate bill log for the Judiciary Committee was long enough, and poor Chairman Massey's bill log is just ridiculous. Most of them were his bills, so I can't really fuss too much about that. But we wouldn't be able to do our work without the fantastic team we have. And so Roberta, Matt, everybody on the team, I thank you so much for doing a great job that you always do. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we are adjourned.